What time did this all start? I know, initially it was earlier, kind of like in the late afternoon, early evening when people started
Ye-
hearing and seeing the fire that had sparked. So tell
Right.
me how you found out about it.
So so I was on my way home from work. I work in a local high school, and I was coming back home from down Applewhite, Moore area. When I started cresting by Toyota plant, I could see the smoke in the air, and I hung up with my father to call my wife or see who was home, and nobody was home. I called my neighbor, and he said he was here, but he said it's the fire had started in somebody's backyard area. It was a controlled burn, but he said it was a ways from us. So as I kept getting closer, I could see the flames rising in the air from the front of the Toyota plant, which is at least uh, maybe 5 miles away from where I'm actually at. Um, Once I got outside 1604 on Applewhite and got to Silver Mountain, there was a sheriff there, and I told him, "Hey, I live over here. Can I get to my house?" And he says, "We're not letting anybody in." He said, "We're evacuating," and I'm like, "Well, okay. Well, my daughter's here, so I need to go get my daughter." He goes, "I can't let you in. We're evacuating." And I'm like, "Well, how am I supposed to evacuate my daughter if you're not letting me in?" And he got kind of upset. Well, I was like, "Whatever. I know what I need to get done." So um, I came back up the road. We have a sand pit that's right here, and my road is actually Silver Wing, so it runs north to south, parallel to Applewhite, and our dead end is at that sand pit road. So I got there. I called a friend from high school because his dad lives at the corner there, and he met up with me, opened the gate, and I was able to gain access to my house. My wife was behind me, not even 2 minutes. She followed us in there and came here also. Um, and once we got here, I linked up with all my neighbors in the area. We were out here in the street in the front yard. We could see the smoke billowing. We could see the helicopters dropping their Bambi buckets with water. We could see directly down our street to the south where the smoke was billowing up. The sheriff did come by. He did say that, they're asking people to leave sooner than later. It's not an evacuation, but we don't want to wait for the fire, to be honest. But we were allowed to stay, and we were fine with that. Well, I guess they had a influx of people trying to come down Applewhite, that they came up and they started closing down the street at the intersection of 1604 and Applewhite. Um, and this is the point about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening when people are coming home. Um, my neighbor has a son that was at football practice at the high school that he was going to go pick up, but they weren't going to let him back in, and him and his rest of the family was here. The only person in their family was the teenage son that was out. My son was at work. He got off, and I told him, just stand by. I'll let you know when you can come, because right now we got word that they're not letting anybody in. Um, then the sheriffs came by in a number of vehicles. They said they wanted us to evacuate. The man that lives at the corner has a couple of horses, so we were trying to wait on somebody to come help him remove these horses, because you can't just leave the horses caged up if you're evacuating. You got to get your livestock out also. Um, so his son called me. They weren't allowing him to come in 1604. And when I drive down there, the sheriff told me, "We're not having you evacuate. I know the kids are there, but he's fine. He's fine for now." So everybody north of Silver Mountain wasn't mandatory evacuated. We're more than a quarter mile away north of the fire. We could see smoke. You can still smell it. You could see a little bit of orange haze at this moment right now down there. Um, but still, we had family members that, parents, children, that were still stuck out there. My neighbor, he had to go get a hotel room just so he could stay with his son. I drove down to the corner of Applewhite Silver Mountain. I talked to a guy sitting in a fire marshal vehicle, and I asked him, what's the plan? Can we escort people to the northern road over here where I live at, so they can safely get home? I understand they have emergency vehicles coming back and forward, but there has to be a plan set to get people home, right? I mean, if you escort them safely, they're not putting other emergency workers in harm, right? And he said it was Bear County Sheriff was in charge of that. So I said, okay, cool. Let me call the non-emergency numbers, see what their plan is. So when I called them, they had a deputy call me back, and he said that no, It was there. They have a lot of emergency vehicles coming up and down. It is the fire marshal's call, and I'm like, well, who's like, are y'all not communicating? Because I told him I just talked to the guy that said it's Bear County. We can't leave a teen kid out there that can't come home to his mom and dad. And he got upset saying, that, oh, we're being selfish. Well, we're not. We're trying to get young children home. We're trying to get parents home to, we're still safe. We're not in, I mean, at this moment, we're not in any danger. Um,
Yeah, so your frustration is more surrounding like the communication and just kind of, how the protocol is,
well,
correct?
right. Well, because of the fact that Apple White Road is our only access to come into our neighborhood and to leave. There is no other road. And that's been before me and my wife moved in here. That's something that the county has not addressed to give us a second road. I mean, I kind of had a feeling like, man, if something was to happen, I mean, being prior service military, I always look for the exits, right? If something was to happen, man, this is our only avenue to evade or enter, and we don't have that. We don't have a second exit or a second entrance. So that's my other frustration is that that's not our fault, and nobody's communicating with us. Nobody's coming and giving us a timeline. Like where is Sheriff Salazar right now? Why is he not updating the constituents that live in this neighborhood on what the plan is to get our loved ones home, or you know making sure that they are safe, especially when you have a teen kid that was at football practice for high school and his mom and dad in the neighborhood.
Yeah, so explain that again, just for people to better understand. Your area was not under evacuation, but anybody wanting to come home was unable to do so, including some kids. So kind of explain that part.
So we live north of Silver Mountain. North of Silver Mountain, where our area is not under the evacuation. Um, we're about a mile, maybe half a mile from the fire. We're about half a mile from the fire. Um, but Apple White Road is our only entrance into the neighborhood. It is our only exit and our only entrance. They said for safety reasons they weren't allowing anybody to come in, but they could escort people here. And we have young children, teenagers, trying to get home from their going to football practice before school starts. We have people that are young adults that are out there working, trying to get home. We got parents that are coming home from wherever they were at and have their kids here. That is our only avenue to get to our home. Like they couldn't. There's no plan for them to safely get those people to our area that is not affected. Like we don't have that other avenue. There's no other road that we can take. We're kind of like in a dead end neighborhood. And that's the main thing is getting those kids to their parents. If there are parents that are, or there are children that were in here, getting those children or the parents that are at work home to their children. It's keeping families safe and united. Like we need an
And
update.
like you said, your son was at work, but from your experience of what you saw today, no one was available to escort anybody back home.
No, there was no plan. None of the sheriffs were telling us that, hey, we're gonna have the road closed off at this time. We're gonna give us a window. Tell us, hey, 30 minutes. You got 30 minutes. Have your family there to come in. Give us something. Meet us halfway, right down the road. Escort our family members to our road that meets right here at the dead end, where they could come in safely and not injure any of those emergency workers that are on the road. I mean, I understand they're fighting a fire. I got it. They need to be able to get safely there. But we also need to be able at the same time to get people reunited with their loved ones in a safe manner. Like there is no leadership coming over to tell us there's no fire marshal, there's no Sheriff Salazar, there is no one coming out here to tell the constituents, the voting constituents in this neighborhood what the plan is. We're just basically left in the wind.
And
So
yeah, I know a lot of people kind of wondering. I mean, even the people that did evacuate, I'm told a lot of them are just camping out. They're hoping they'll be able to go back home, but they're kind of in a waiting period. Um,
So I talked to one of them that she actually lives on the south side of Silver Mountain, and she said that she's actually waiting over there at the entrance, but they're going to get a hotel room. Right now, I just had one of my neighbors passing by that he left his vehicle down there, and I opened my gate. My neighbor has a Razor side by side, and as people were parking down there, we were helping our community, helping our neighbors go down there, pick them up, and drive them to their house in whatever we had, like our our side by sides, our Rangers, our ATVs, moving our neighborhood, our neighbors, our friends,
Yeah.
moving them back and forward to their vehicles, or if they were trying to leave. We did
How
get
many
told.
people around how many houses are on Applewhite?
Oh, on Applewhite.
Well,
Oh
that's
man,
where you're at, right? Or
no,
what is your
I'm actually on Silver. I'm actually on Silver Wing, and I
okay.
can tell you maybe,
Or how many homes do you think are impacted because of that closure of Applewhite?
man, I would say about more like maybe like 60.
Hmm.
They're about 60 because you have Silver Wing, you have Silver Eagle, Silver Saddle, all the houses that are on Silver Mountain, but on the north side, and it kind of goes back into a corner. There's about maybe I would say 60 houses that are not south of Silver Mountain that are not in the we're not in the evacuation zone. So we're the ones that are affected by not being able to get our family members or get to your home.
Yeah. And then from where you're at, since you were able to get back home, but kind of going another
Yeah,
way.
right. So we have Silver Wing actually runs north to south, and it connects with there's a road that goes to a sand pit that's here. Both our neighbors at the dead end, they opened up their gates. They knew that we knew how to get home, and that was our avenue. And they came up and down and said, hey, if you have to leave to go get something, go get it. You can come back through my gate, it's going to be open. The lady on the other side said, hey, I own the two properties, I have a road that connects to the dirt road, take that. But what we were told was by the fire marshal guy down here, he did tell us that if we were to leave, that we were not going to be allowed, but that we're able to leave, we just can't come back in. So now that brings concerns for, okay, how long is this going to be tomorrow? Like if I go to work in the morning, do I need to take clothes to make sure that I might not be able to come home tomorrow afternoon? I mean, the fire now has shifted apparently from what they were being told, that is shifting and moving east.
Can you
With
see it or any of the smoke or the flames at all?
when we were out here in the daylight, we could see it, and the wind was blowing it to the west towards Highway 16. You could see it blowing towards the west, Highway 16. The wind would kick up, and you would see the smoke would kick up like it was getting bigger. And once it got to about 7 p.m., the wind died down, and the smoke kind of went away. But when I drove over to that corner, you could still see the glow of the fire down in Atascosa County.
Yeah, we had our helicopter over and it just looked like a raging ball of fire.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary, and I understand that your safety first, and that's a big deal. But it's also like there's more aspects to just the safety part. So, but yeah, I mean, as of right now, we can't. There really is no smoke. You could see a little bit of orange glow. You can't see no smoke, but you
So
can smell it.
the last thing that they told you, what time was that whenever they said it's not a mandatory evacuation, but just be ready, kind of?
Well, when they told me that, it was probably about, I would say, 8 o'clock. One of the sheriffs, he came up to me. He was former military, and he's like, "Hey, we kind of like just connected, both being former military." And he's like, "You always got to be prepared. You got to be proactive, not reactive." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I just, I'm trying to buy my time. I don't want to have to leave if I don't need to leave. But if you need me to go, I want you to tell me to go." And he's like, "Nah, you're not mandated to go. You can go if you want to, but we're not forcing you out at this point, at that point." And it must have been about 7:30, 8 o'clock. When I went to talk to the fire marshal, it was 9:45, and I talked to him over there. It was before the 10 o'clock news. I knew that for sure. Um, and I went down and talked to him, and he said, "No, we're not mandated. It's not a mandatory that we evac because we're on this side of the main road. But if we leave, we can't come back in." And he even said that he doesn't know what the plan is to let people in. He told me, like, he's the one that told me it was Bear County Sheriff's Office. So I called the Bear County Sheriff's Office non-emergency number, and they're telling me it's the fire marshal. Like, just getting the runaround left and right of who's in charge.
Yeah. Is that, concerning to you?
Yeah, it's basically like a C2 know like who's gonna be in charge and making who's the commander on the ground, right? Like who's making the decisions that everybody's gonna follow. And that's a big issue that we've been facing across the nation and across Texas. I mean, we had that, you said we had that issue in Kerrville with the flooding. We've had the issue in Uvalde with the school shooting. Like who is going to be taking control? We're not in the city, so we know it's not SAPD. We're in the county. We know we got to call the sheriff when stuff happens out here. Um, the fire marshals, they come out here. We got a lot of people that, they help. They got tractors, equipment. We kind of basically self-sufficient and help each other. But when now we need to rely on city or county assets, who are we going to go to for answers? Like one person that's going to tell me, hey, you need to be prepared to move and go. And then the next guy that comes down 5 minutes down the road tells me, no, you're not under evacuation. You're good. And I'm looking at both of them standing together and, it's kind of like one of them's tap dancing. So
Yeah.
we, we would like answers. I know they can't come because it's a ever evolving event, but you know, at the same time, those of us that are not affected need reassurance.
Yeah. And then earlier, so did they specifically say that your area was evacuated and then said it wasn't evacuated? Was there a certain time?
That was like it was 4:30 when I was coming down the main road on Applewhite to turn onto Silver Mountain. The sheriff that was blocking the road with the fire department said that he was there. Everybody was evacuating, and I told him, okay, well, I have a daughter there. Can I go get her? And he goes, no, we're evacuating. I need to come get her. So that's why I made the decision to come down the dirt road, call my neighbor to open the gate. And once he opened the gate and I told him that they were blocking, he left his gate open. That was at 4:30 that we were told we were everybody was evacuating. I understand that was early in the fire. They had, they didn't have no control or they didn't know where they were at, or it was still a developing situation. Um, but I guess if I stayed home, I waited a little bit longer. I talked to some of my neighbors. 30 minutes later, it was a voluntary evacuation. If you want to, for say, right? If we want to go ahead of time, we can go ahead and go. We just weren't going to be allowed back in. And then around 7, it was just, no, you're not evacuated. So that's the timeline we're looking at. So that's kind of like the direction of the fire.
Mm-hmm.
I zoom in.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, I see some of the smoke. Yeah.
yeah, you can, it's kind of smoky out here. You could smell burning wood, like when it's been burning for a while. Yeah, and that's about, yeah. And then that's down towards the fire, which when I kind of like mapped it out on my Google Maps, it gave me over a quarter mile. And this is to the dirt road that's down there at our northern entrance is way down there.
So that's where you came in,
That's where
correct?
we came in from. Yeah, north of Silver Wing Drive.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.